welcome everybody. You are in Editing for the Web, and I am Emily Ray. I am your instructor. It is week 1, and this is your orientation to the course. This is me. I look like this on some days, but not most days. My hair is straight in this picture, and normally it's a crazy frizzy mess because we live in Florida. I've been at Full Sail for about 6 years, and I have been teaching a web class in MCBS for a little over 4. I am passionate about this work. I do freelancing consulting in this discipline and in this capacity outside of Full Sail. So I like to think that I still have my finger on the pulse of what's happening and able to provide you guys with some insight and knowledge about what you'll face when you get out there if developing content for the web or websites is where you want to spend your time. So first things first, I want to go through kind of housekeeping things for the course. The best way to contact me is through the messaging inbox within FSO. This will send an email to my Full Sail email address, which I get on my phone. So it's basically like a tag team version of sending a text. I like having all of our communications in this space because it allows me to keep a record of the things that we talk about, right? So if you need an extension, if you send it to me here, I can log in, actually see the message, give you an extension, and then see your work when you turn it in later and have that kind of archived record of the things that we spoke about. You have the option to comment below an activity when you turn something in. Please do not send me a message there because I don't get notifications that that comment is there. All right, until I go into grade, which is when an activity had after the due date, then I'm not going to see it, and I might not be able to find or provide the help that you need in a timely way. So again, message me via the inbox within FSO. For those of you who are a fan of Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the first one is begin with the end in mind. Now, this is something that I talk about in the portfolio class that I teach, but it's the idea that any journey that you're on, you should start with a clear picture of what you want the outcome to be so that you'll know how to make positive, productive steps towards that ideal outcome. And so while the next part of this particular presentation is going to be somewhat boring because I'm going to read slides to you, I want you to know this is the end goal for this class. These are the things, the objectives that we hope that you will be able to master and demonstrate in your work upon completion of this course. All right, so I'm just going to go through what the objectives are for our time together over the next 4 weeks. So the first one is to identify the 4 phases of the web development process and the main tasks associated in each phase, to analyze a target audience to determine demographic data, create user personas, and develop an ideal site visitor profile, evaluate the features of popular content management systems, also known as a CMS, for their usefulness and their relevancy to a given website development scenario, develop strategic web copy and audiovisual assets that adhere to best practices for creating content for an online, interactive medium, create a simple, functional website using a content management system that meets both the needs of the end user and the business needs of a given website development scenario, and build the basic structure of a personal portfolio website that will be revisited and refined in a later portfolio course. Now that was a whole bunch of words to basically say we are going to engage in a couple of web building projects together. The first one over a couple weeks is going to be a fictitious business scenario where you are going to get all of the content that you need to build a site for a particular client, and your job is to make strategic decisions about how to use that content and what you know about that business and their target audience to create a site that best fits the needs of the user and the business. Later on this month, you're going to be creating a portfolio site for yourself that will be the foundation that you will build on through multiple portfolio classes in the MCBS program. All right, quick poll for those of you in the room who can answer back. Who wants to be a web developer? I'm getting a couple of head, they're shaking, they're not nodding. All right, so generally when I've asked this question, the answer has always been no. And do you want to know why the answer is no? The answer is no because if you wanted to be a web developer, you're in the wrong program. I cannot teach you what you need to know about web design to be a web developer for your career in the 4 short weeks that we have together. Media communications is a broad survey program, right, where you're learning a little bit about everything and taste testing. But I assure you, at the close of these 4 weeks together, you will feel comfortable building a website using free and available tools with no coding knowledge whatsoever. This is one of a few classes in the MCBS program that, when you finish it, like you could go out there and just start taking clients immediately. I mean, the strength of your design will depend upon your own diligence and commitment to, best practices, concepts, and techniques. But will you have the knowledge? You will. All right. Those of you who have had me for a portfolio class know that I'm big on this idea of relevance. Right? So I just asked if anybody wanted to be a web developer. I got a whole bunch of shaking heads that said no, which means that you guys have other professional aims here in this room, right? So Malia, what do you want to do? Production, all right. Sarah? Photography, all right. Neither one of those things has inherent web design, like a basis or a foundation. But when you do production work, where are you going to share that content? Most likely on a portfolio site. But let's say you're in production and you make a web series, sharing it on a web and maybe a website. You want to, do photography work. Where's that work going to end up?
It's supposed to be on a blog.
All right, a blog. A blog is a website. A portfolio site. You might even be creating content for other people's websites, right? You might be hired to take pictures specifically for a business so they can put it up on their website. So you will need to know about best practices for imagery in websites, right? So even though you don't want to be a web developer, I encourage you to keep an open mind about how what you're learning will ultimately be beneficial to you in your chosen discipline. Relevance is kind of like the secret word or the magic word of Pee-wee's Playhouse. Did you guys ever watch that?
I've heard of it. I am at the couches.
Yeah, so they had like this magic word of the day or the secret word, and anytime that anybody said it, everybody like within the show and like the characters and the laughing tracks would all they would scream. They would go, ah! And it was just this moment to kind of bring everybody back to what that word was. And so, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Anytime you hear me say it, feel free to give a little scream. I've had students do it. But anytime that you can circle back and ask yourself, how will I use this? And you come to an answer, you will find that you are internalizing what you're learning in a much more meaningful way. All right. What would an orientation be without talk about expectations, right? So I've got a couple, 3, and they are the same for campus students and online students who are listening to this archive. And that is to show up. Campus students, that means be here in the classroom with me at our scheduled time and to enjoy coming together for those class meetings. For online students, showing up means being present within that classroom community online, coming in, checking the message boards. I'm going to be using our class messaging thread to share resources, lectures, answer questions, provide feedback. So be present there with us. The next one is to participate. For those of you in the classroom with me, that means participate in our discussions. Add your voice, add your questions, ask for clarification. Ask how, what you're doing would benefit from the knowledge that, I'm here to share with you this month. And the same goes for the online students. Participate in those interactions with each other. Almost every single one of your assignments is due on a discussion board post, right? So it's not send me a file and say, that I've completed this activity. It's post a link on this discussion board. I do that so that you can see each other's work. I do that so you can comment on each other's work. I do that so you can get a different view of how someone else might attack the same exact problem. Last but not least, ask questions, right? So, the very basics of this is if you have something that is confusing and that you need clarification on, just ask a question about it. But again, coming back around to this idea of relevance, if you don't see how what we're talking about connects to whatever it is that you want to do, let's talk about that too, okay? There is a course text. It's available on Creative Edge. It's called Web Design for Dummies. If you read my welcome message in FSO, there's a little disclaimer there, an apology. You guys are not dummies, right? But that's just the title of this book. It would not be feasible for me to teach you everything that you need to know about web design, development, user experience, information architecture, and a whole bunch of other things in the 4 short weeks that we have together. And so this book is a nice condensed summary of a lot of high-level concepts in a very user-friendly way. This is the only time I'll talk about this textbook. Your assigned reading is available for you in FSO, and it will certainly supplement and support the work that you do in this class. There's no reading quizzes, you're not going, but the work that you turn in will show me whether or not you are using this as a resource to help guide the choices that you make on your projects. Course activities. Now, you guys have been in MCBS for a little while now. Kind of hitting that halfway mark almost at this point. So some of these might seem, and the phrasing of them might seem familiar, but if not, I'm going to run through really quickly. The first are exploration activities. These are things that happen kind of early in the week. They are designed to introduce you to a new topic in a risk-free sort of way. It's like I want you to immerse yourself in a new concept and do a simple, fun activity that if you follow all of the criteria for, like it's an absolute A. It's 100%. It's pass-fail, right? So if you do what's required of you in the assignment, then you're going to get 100 for this activity. If you partially complete this activity, you're going to get partial credit, as in 50%. What does 50% equal? An F. So 50% is better than no percent, right? But if you're going to engage in it fully and get 100% credit for your work and for your time, all right? And then if you don't do it at all, then obviously you don't get any credit for that. Next up, we have analysis activities. These take place kind of sandwiched between the first activity and the last activity of the week. In many classes, these analysis activities take the form of writing assignments. You will not be writing in this class. I ask you to create video reviews in place of writing assignments. That's not to say there's no writing to prepare to create a video review. You should be working from notes or from a script or something that you have sketched out ahead of time so you know what you want to say. I don't want a whole bunch of videos where you're stumbling through your words and going, and like I have to sit through 6 to 8 minutes of you trying to figure out what you want to say. Deliver your comments or your insights in a brief yet impactful way to engage your audience, right? So even though this is not a video creation class, I still want you to apply best practices for creating videos. And nobody wants to watch an 8-minute video review about something. They want to watch something that's engaging and impactful and supplying articulate and well thought out and informed comments. Moving forward, projects. This is the last activity of the week. This is your opportunity to show me what you know. The exploration was the introduction to the material. The analysis is like, okay, I've learned about this concept. Let me see how it's happening in the real world. Okay, now at the end of the week, let me learn or let me apply what I learned in the beginning of the week, have seen an example of in the real world, and now how would I do it if I had the chance to do it? That's how the projects are going to unfold. For those of you on campus, we also have these things called integrated learning activities. These are supplemental classroom activities that support our learning, based upon opportunities that we have here on campus. It might be that there's a presentation that we go to one day that is relevant to something that we're learning. It might be that we have the opportunity to work on a website project for something in the industry partnership program together. So we will kind of handle these things or these opportunities as they come up, but just know, one day I might be like, hey guys, next Wednesday we're going to go here at this time instead to watch this presentation. I will give you as much heads up as I possibly can, as I know that you guys have work schedules and things. So trust me, I am going to work with you as best I can if there is a need to change up a schedule and time. All right, late policy of this class is you will receive up to half credit, meaning max 50%, for 48 hours after the missed deadline. This is blanket across the board, right? So I don't need an excuse. Like, you don't have to tell me why it's late. You will automatically have the ability to submit work for up to 48 hours for half credit. Like, that's a given. But do you know what I like more than giving you half credit? Girl, giving you an extension. That is right. Okay, in the history of me teaching at Full Sail, which is now about 6 years, 4 years with MCBS, I've never denied a student an extension who has reached out to me proactively. Doesn't matter what the excuse is, right? Or what the need is. Because as an educator, I am trying to foster in you professional behaviors that will serve you well in the industry or in your chosen jobs outside of these walls. These due dates that are in this class are arbitrary, which means I made them up and I set them up. And I set them up because we have to have due dates to push us to the next thing, right? We have to learn this before we can learn that. So they have to be there, and they have to be on a specific schedule because we've got to move through a lot of content in 4 weeks. But that doesn't mean that there's not wiggle room within that. So would I care, do I care more that Sarah turns something in at 11:59 on a Tuesday that's like a poor example of her work, or if she turns in at 11:59 on a Wednesday and she's taken the extra 24 hours to produce something that she's going to find valuable and useful for herself. It doesn't matter if the reason she needs it is because she had to pull an extra shift or that she was sick or whatever. If she reaches out to me proactively before that deadline, I'm going to support her. What that requires on your part is like proactive professional communication, and that I will extend that to you in any class that you ever have with me. All right, lectures. You're in one right now, and I record them. And so if you miss one, you need to watch this archive within 48 hours because I'm sharing insight that might help you with a project that's due, the following day. So if you miss a class on Monday, you need to watch whatever lecture is by the Wednesday that's coming because I'm sharing stuff that will ultimately support you and aid you in the work that you're going to do in class. Phones in the class, you're welcome to have them, but keep them on silent just because, well, that's courteous. But also in me recording like these archives, I get distracted very easily and I don't want to have to go back and edit out like me losing my train of thought and going on a tangent for 5 minutes. It's a kind of a weird time of day. It's the afternoon. We all get kind of tired. You might see me in here with a coffee or a granola bar or something of that. You're welcome to bring food or drink in here as needed, but of course clean up after yourselves and pack it in, pack it out, kind of a thing. Do you guys have any questions about kind of these housekeeping components of the course? All right, so if you have no questions, then that means I nailed the orientation. I like to pride myself or think that like either you don't have questions because you just, I've been so clear that, you couldn't possibly. Oh, that's it? Okay, good. Well, if that's what you say, then I'm going to go with it. So I thank you for your attention to this one, and we'll come back around for my favorite lecture of this entire class, which I'm going to give next, which is called The 7 Deadly Sins.